What are the biggest mistakes founders make when trying to scale acquisition?
Obsession with yourself is the biggest mistake. They're fixated on their own product, their own solution, because it's all me. The simple truth is nobody cares. Sit down, take out a pen and piece of paper and write down what is it and why you're doing it.
How should a startup win its first, from 50 to 100 customers?
I get about 150 cold outreaches a week. Do you know how many people I've replied to out of that?
10?
2. And think about it like this. I've got 2 minutes to read your pitch deck. If you can't articulate your point in 2 minutes to me, you're not going to have a conversation with me.
How has today's funding climate changed?
One word, profit.
We will make profit after 3 years, after 5
No.
years. No.
Don't care. That's just not a thing that they look at anymore.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Client Engine. I'm Hanish and this show is for B2B founders, tech startups, consultants who want a simple, predictable way to get clients without burnout or guesswork. And today's guest is Eoin McGuinness. He leads Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa at HubSpot for startups. Eoin is a 3-time exited founder and also scouts for VCs. So he works with early stage venture-backed teams and helps them build practical go-to-market systems. So in this episode today, we'll keep it real and focus on how to get your first 50 to 100 customers, when to move from founder-led selling to your first sales hire, and how to balance inbound versus outbound so it actually scales. So, Owen, first of all, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and thanks for reaching out. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And so to start with, what first drew you into entrepreneurship and what keeps you passionate about early stage growth even after multiple exits?
Yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes entrepreneurship is in your core, and I think I'm one of those people. I started my first business at 11 years of age in the back of my house, where I ran a disco for my friends, and I charged entrance, and I had a little pop-up shop that I sold at a markup of 100% on what I was buying the products for. And I was at 11. And I think before that, my mom has a story where I used to, on our summer holidays, go down to the fishermen. I'd buy fish, and then I would go back to, our campsite where we would camp. And I would go and I would sell fish tent to tent. So I think by nature, it was always in me. I think when I was sort of 17 was my first real jump into the entrepreneurial world in a real sense. And I love that figuring out a market, the understanding of testing and trying and seeing what works. That from 0 to 5 years is the part that still excites me the most today.
Great. So you tried few things early on and then it builds up from there, right? What are the biggest mistakes founders make when trying to scale acquisition according to you? What are those big mistakes?
Yeah. Obsession with yourself is the biggest mistake. So what I see, and I speak to, hundreds of startups every week in my job, right? And the commonality that I see with them all is they're fixated on their own product, their own service, their own solution. And the simple truth is nobody cares about what you do or what you're building, because it's all me. Where that mindset shift from the why behind you're doing it is the most important. So the one commonality I would say to any founder listening today is sit down, take out a pen and piece of paper and write down what is it and why you're doing it. Not what's in it for you, right? And I think fundamentally, if we can get that right, it becomes a lot easier. So understanding your customer and selling or marketing something that helps them is the easiest way for early stage growth.
So what is in it for the customers, right? And
100%.
what problem you are solving?
Yeah. Over-index your caring about them and less reliance on me, right? So I'll give you an example. When I go and do some scouting for VCs and someone pitches me or I do a pitch competition, I will automatically give someone a 0 out of 10 if they start with Me, I.
Okay.
Because if that's the first thing that comes out of their mouth, that's the first thing they care about. So when someone starts with there's the problem, statement of a problem, I know, cool, these guys and girls are building something for their customers. And I'm like, brilliant. They are going to try ruthlessly to fix that problem or that issue that customer is having, rather than this is cool and it's shiny and I think it'll be a cool business model because I asked ChatGPT what's a good business model that'll make me lots of cash.
Yeah. So, like, the founders feel so obsessed with what they are doing rather than keep it very simple and focus to the problem, right? They're solving. It should always be, they should always read the problem statement that they're going to solve, right, with their service or product.
Yeah, 100%. And not asking, and I think it also comes down to, practicing things like your elevator pitch. Like, how many times do you say me or I in
Mm-hmm.
in that it should be zero? And if it's more than zero, you're probably not thinking about your solution in the right way. And it's always a good sense check for founders to be like, okay, the why behind it, the reason why we're doing it. Yes, we fundamentally want to make money and we want to build something cool and scalable, but the cornerstone to what we're trying to achieve is level of success and happiness and solving a problem for the customer. That should be the root of every business globally.
Yes. And how should a startup win its first, like, for 50 to 100 customers? Because for a lot of them, that's the main 90% of the thing.
Yeah. So I get about 150 cold outreaches a week. Um, do you know how many people I've replied to out of that in my 5 years in HubSpot? Just take a guess.
Maybe 10
Yeah, 2.
in 5
And
years.
I bought their 2 products. And do you know why? Because they explained to me what
Right.
my pain was in a way. I remember speaking to someone that did a video to me. They sent it to me on LinkedIn. I was like, that's cool. I didn't reply to them. And then a couple of days later, they sent me a voice note when they used to do voice notes on LinkedIn. They sent me
Yes.
a voice note. I was like, this person gets me. Like, they understand me as a customer. They understand my pain point. I have no idea what their product did. I bought it when I did the demo and did my due diligence. But that salesperson fundamentally understood what I needed to do. Now, he was a founder and he was doing founder sales, but he fundamentally understood me as a customer and what is happening. So what I would always say to people is like that, to get those first early stage customers, whether they're a big enterprise customer or you're selling an e-commerce brand and it's the first product that you're selling out there, it's like understand them enough that it becomes silly for them not to buy your product or service. Like, it's so crystal clear that the pain point is there. Right, there is a certain amount of trust that you have to build with them, but it's a lot easier to build trust when there's an actual need for it. So for early stage acquisition, I'm a big fan of cold outreach or
Yeah.
semi-cold outreach, where you're testing. I always think of this as your testing phase as well, because you're testing your value proposition. You're testing your statements. You're testing your,
Right.
what do the client actually care about? So for a founder, that first 0 to 50 customers is fundamentally so important that you're selling, so that you understand when you're building onto your product for your 50 to 100 and your 100 to 1,000 customers, that you're fundamentally understanding what you're building based on the research you do. So I always think of it twofold. Your first 50 customers are your test. They are your customer acquisition, your customer discovery, as well as being your cash flow at the beginning.
So resonating with the customers, with your building your statement, value statement, right? And if you can get 50 to 100 customers through cold outreach and you perfect your value statement, then it would be easy to scale things up from there, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know what their pain point is. You know what you're trying to solve for. You might think you have the coolest feature and product in the world, and you think it's going to be the best thing, and then you actually speak to your customers. They're like, they don't care. But that like very unsexy feature that you built, that you did in a half an hour of coding, or you're a service business and you do something a little bit that you see as being super simple, but it's groundbreaking to your customer. Like they're
Mhm.
the things that actually work the best. And it's not the cool thing. It's usually the very simplest thing that people love the most. And I don't think you really understand that as a founder if you outsource sales too early.
Yeah, great. And at the start, like, how would you split between inbound and outbound, the efforts mainly?
So at the beginning, I would definitely heavily focus on outbound, right? I think by
Outbound.
nature, inbound should be a part of what you're doing. So you're creating that narrative based on the learnings that you're having from those first initial customers or even those first initial conversations. So my rule of thumb for any companies I consult with or work with in HubSpot, what I would always say is work on sort of 4 blog posts a month,
Okay.
focused on the main points your customer is focusing on. Think of a very simple CTA, so call to action on each one of those. They can be the same, they can be different, whatever you want it to be. Build that sort of that momentum going in there. Share it on all the social media channels that you have. Use AI
Mhm.
for this if you want to. I am a big fan of using AI. What I would typically do is I would literally put a blog post in and then I would split it. HubSpot have this really cool remix tool. Again, not plugging HubSpot here, but they have a remix tool that will basically split the content into 5, 7, 12, twenty
Right.
five different pieces of content based on the core piece of information you've fed it. So I love stuff like that because in an hour, I can do all the social media content. I can do my blog posts and everything is done for the month in about an hour. And
Okay.
then I focus primarily on my outbound. And then as I'm learning, I'm going to be adapting my inbound based on the behavior, the information that I'm hearing from your customer. Um, don't start inbound too late either.
Mhm.
Think about the journey that they want to go on. So like what is your customer going to do? Don't focus on selling at the beginning. Think of this for your early stage as being trust building. We're identifying the problem, we're explaining how we fix it, and we're giving proof that we know how to, right? Push them through a funnel, or, we shouldn't say funnel anymore,
Right.
but push them through a process that will get them to convert, but don't be worried about the sale right now, right? They're your testing ground again, early
Yes.
stage to see what works. And if they become a hot lead, just have a good lead scoring system in the background. So if someone visits your pricing page 3 times, make sure that you get
They're lead.
notified, right?
Yeah.
Simple is what will work better for you.
Yes. So giving value in the beginning as much as you can, right? Building 4 blog posts in a month and sharing it through social media, doing cold outbound outreach in the beginning, right? And not focus too much on sales, but to have analytics and the tracking system set up when someone review your content, you get notified and you try to reach out to that person, right? Yeah. Okay.
Make
Great.
it super simple, right? So I'll give you an example. So I set up, I helped a friend of mine set up a company recently, and we had the website live about 3 days. And before we even had the lead scoring system built, when we went in to do the lead scoring system, we looked at the companies that were visiting our website, and there was 6 companies that had visited his pricing page 4 times in 3 days.
6 visitors checking 4 times 3 days.
Yeah, how cool is that? Like
Right.
they weren't even in their database. They didn't even know the
Yeah.
companies existed. And I'm like, and if it was the funny thing of having that conversation with them was they were all from the same industry,
Okay.
which wasn't one of the ICPs or the target like the customer
Y-
segment that they were looking for. And I was like, well, if this couldn't be more of an indication that potentially this is your right
This is
ICP.
right. That person should target them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But without that understanding, and that's why I'm such a big fan of like that combination of inbound and outbound. I think what happens at the stage that we're at right now is if you think about like a glass, right? Or you think about 2 glasses and you've got a jug of water, right? And inbound is one glass and outbound is the other glass. You're going to fill your outbound jug about 75% and your inbound jug or glass is going to be 25%. As time goes on, they're going to change. The liquid is going to move
Yes.
from the outbound into the inbound as you build authority and understanding until eventually they've swapped, where inbound is 75 and outbound is 25. But at the beginning, outbound, unfortunately, is the key to early stage success.
Yes. In the beginning, it's 80-20, outbound 80-20, inbound. And then later on, the goal is to have 80% inbound and 20% outbound. Great. And how do you build a predictable acquisition system instead of relying only on the referrals? Outbound setup in the beginning and then inbound.
Yeah, I think predictability to it is like set very simple goals, right? So an old sales manager of mine when I worked in sales many years ago, you had a rule of thumb was to find 50 new companies that aren't in the database every single month or
Okay.
every single week and reach out to those 50 new companies. So 10 a day.
10.
Right? Very simple, easy metric to follow. You do it every single day. It becomes part of your cycle. The same thing with your sort of your inbound journey or your building predictability to it. Identify and test the things that work. Give them a scoring system or a ranking system based on the return on investment, and then double down on the things that are working and then test the things that aren't. But your focus should be on the things that are working. So what I always sort of say to people is like, a very simple attribution report is a very easy way to be able to identify what is working and what isn't working. I get asked this question a lot. I'm going to predict that you're going to ask me on this one is, what does success look like? So identifying success early on is the most important thing. So some companies, it might be, I actually want acquisition. I want number of net new leads. For some companies, it's going to be pure revenue acquisition. So how many new customers or logos
Customers.
do I have in, right? Identifying that early is important as well. And I'm a big fan of marketing and sales both having a revenue number, because I think marketing should have a revenue number so that we don't get fixated on vanity metrics and we focus on the things that convert to actual dollars in the bank. And I think that depends on your company, right? That decision should come early in terms of what is the highest priority. Is it vanity metrics like the number of leads that come in, or do we want money in the bank? I don't have the answer to that for every company because it's a very internal discussion that has to happen.
Having lead scoring and then calculating like what a lead would be worth, right? In the marketing and also in the sales, both the sides. Okay. And when is the right time to move from founder-led selling to your first sales hire?
When you feel like you understand your customer enough. Yeah, it's not a very quantifiable answer, but it'll be different for everyone. I would be a very big advocate for, if you're going to raise funding, the likelihood is you and or one or two of your founders, it's a full-time job for one of the founding team to do fundraising. So if you're doing founder sales and fundraising, you're going to have to pick one or the other. And that's sometimes when it happens that someone is raising capital and then that person becomes the de facto fundraiser. In that case, then I would be a very big advocate of, at that point, one of your other founders to jump into the sales role in that case for a little while for them to understand. It doesn't matter whether you're technical or whether you're the talker or the salesperson in the founding team. It's still important for everyone to do some level of selling. One of the best salespeople I've ever seen in my life is Dharmesh from HubSpot. He's not a salesperson, doesn't even like people, but he's terrifically good at articulating a problem because he understands his customer.
Great.
But
yeah.
it doesn't matter. So I think the answer is probably not what you want me to say, but it is the understanding of the customer is the fundamental point where you shift to maybe hire your first salesperson.
Once you're comfortable that, okay, now you know your customers, now you know what they are looking for, then you should build a process and have your sales team take over the sales.
Yeah, 100%. And the likelihood is you'll be brought back in to sales discussions early stage, especially
Yes.
for every, but like the heavy lifting of prospecting and outreach. So like the one thing that I would always say is when you feel like you're at that stage of, oh, I'm probably not too far away from removing myself from the sales like side, hire a junior salesperson and let them do the heavy lifting of your prospecting or your researching companies, like that sort of stuff. And then you focus on the
Closing.
ultimately the selling, the closing,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
and let them do the heavy lifting. And then you're building an SOP or a standing operation practice as you're doing this. And then it's easy then for you to say, right, I'm actually going to hire someone a little bit more senior. And then you've got your first founding sales team then. But you're building the core of that by training someone younger to understand what you're trying to achieve.
Yes. And hiring this door openers first, and you be a closer in the beginning, and then it'll take most of your work in the sales when you have someone who's giving you prospects, leads, making sure the conversations are active, doing the follow-ups and all, and you doing the main part right
Yeah.
in the beginning.
And then you're
Yeah.
removing the boring part of your job, like the part that like nobody likes doing, but it's a fundamental part of what, when you're building a company, you have to do it.
Yes, agree. And which weekly KPIs should early teams track to know acquisition is working, not working? First
Yeah,
is
good
definitely the
question.
revenue.
Yeah, revenue. Revenue should be the most important. And then number of deals created is a good one. And then for me, it's always number of contacts created. So number of people added to a CRM. It's a very good way of actually identifying, especially if you've got some junior people, are they actually doing their work effectively? Like we need to be focusing on new people constantly and sort of crafting our message. But number of deals is a good one. And the one that I always use with my sales teams is time to close. How long does it take a deal to close? That fundamentally for me is so important because time kills all deals. And that's a really important metric to follow.
What client acquisition playbook have you seen succeed across many startups? Like that, okay, this is the pattern that works. You see the most of the times it works.
Yeah, good question. Cold works. It always has. It always will, in my opinion. I think that's a simple one. The one that I think a lot of startups forget about, that I see a trend in the ones that are get funding, and the ones that have a very high growth rate and a high profit rate, is the ones that have affiliate or referral models pre-built
Okay.
in. So you take an example of a very strong early stage growth company coming out of Estonia called HeyReach. They do LinkedIn
Yeah.
outreach. They have a affiliate model pre-built in. So it's a referral model, but it's an affiliate model. So whoever refers someone will get a kickback off them. Early stage is really easy. It's also really easy to build an automation on that to say, hey, I've seen you've signed up. You've used the tool for the last 3 months. Here's a 20% discount code for your friends and family or your business colleagues or whatever. And it works regardless if you're B2B or B2C. So that's a really easy one. The other one that I always recommend to people, especially like if you're in service businesses or digital agencies or SaaS products as well, is focusing on agencies or third-party resellers. Like it's so low touch and
Hmm.
so low lift, it can actually see high growth quickly.
Okay.
Ultimately, why startups don't do it as frequently, and the ones that do it, it works better for, is because you lose a certain amount of control. And to some founders, they don't like to lose control. I personally find I would much prefer to have a small sales team and outsource or work with agencies or partners or acquisition channels that I've a little bit more of a sort of a longer reach away
Hmm.
from, and kind of have a very clear set of goals, set of requirements, and if they don't hit them, we just cut them and we move on to the next thing. That to me is an easier way to grow, and it means that you still hold the relationship with the net new customer that comes in, but you've got someone or an army of people out there ultimately selling your product or your service for you. And I think that's an acquisition channel that a lot of people get really wrong, mainly because they want to micromanage it. Whereas most of the time, these people know what they're doing. Just let them do their job effectively and give them guidance, but don't micromanage.
Having others sell for you, right? Having a attractive affiliate program or referral program so that others who understand how to get customers to the door actually do the selling for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's simple, but it is that control thing. Like if you're okay about releasing or letting go of that control, then it becomes a lot easier for you. So I'll give you a real world example. I used to own an e-commerce company. We sold globally. We were very, very profitable. We made good revenue. We had a core team of 3.
Only 3.
3 people. We sold globally. We had one of the biggest alcohol brands in the world, and we were the primary white label partner for them for our product type. I'm not going to go into the inner workings of it with an NDA in place, but I sold through drop shippers.
Okay.
And I had 350 something drop shippers that sold my products on their websites. Not white labeled products, it was my brand on their products. It was one of my biggest revenue generators.
That's great. Yeah.
But it's simple. It's simple. It's so bloody simple. But like I see this constantly with founders that they don't want to let go of this control, and it slows their growth down so much where you're like, no, these guys, if you give them a clear set of rules, a set of guidelines, you're going to have a bad one every so often. That's just nature of it. But it's the positives way outweigh the negatives.
And as a VC scout, like what do you look for in the founding teams and early tractions?
I'm so unbelievably obsessed with fixing a problem. This is the first thing. They understand their customer and they can articulate things quickly and easily and to the point. If they have background in that space, great. If they are likable characters, if they can tell a really good story, like it sounds like very simple, but honestly it sometimes is that simple, because what I'm essentially trying to identify is, do these VCs want to work with this person for 5 years? Is their target market real and big enough? Do they understand what they're trying to solve for? There's a lot of things that can be coached and taught, but those core fundamentals can't be. If you're, excuse my language here, but if you're a dickhead, you're a dickhead. Like, you can't change that. That's one of the things that, like, I know it sounds really simple, but it is actually so important, is like, can you see yourself working with this person for 5 years? Are they coachable enough? Do they understand their pain point? If they can they articulate how to fix it? And everything else we can figure out down the road.
So you're more focused on the person rather than the
the industry or the segment that they're going after. That's obviously super important. But as long as there's a big enough TAM and there's a good potential chance of growth, then it's the human factors that come second to it.
Right. And what red flags in the early pitches make you pass? First is the I or me you mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah, I or me straight away, forget about, won't even talk to them. Sounds really simple, but really badly designed pitch decks. Like, there's no excuse for it with AI. Like, go and buy a subscription to Gamma, make your product look good. Like, there's no excuses for it anymore. Overly elaborate information on your product, hate it, and lying about your financials.
Okay.
And those things happen 99 times out of 100.
Okay. You look for the honest and presentable presentation with full honesty, integrity, that showing you the clear picture and able to explain you what problem the person is solving, right?
Exactly. And think about it like this. I've got 2 minutes to read your pitch deck. 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't articulate your point in 2 minutes to me and I have to sit there and think about it,
it's a red flag.
You're not going to have a conversation with me. It's like a CV when you're going to, and I think this is why people get so wrong with pitch decks, is think of it like your CV when you're trying to get a job. You put down everything simple and easy to understand for the recruiter to see. And then it's the interview where you get to explain all of the things behind what you see in a CV. So your pitch deck is the same. It should be no
Right.
more than 8 to 12 pages. There should be probably no more than like 12 to 20 words on per deck. Like, it should be very simple, like, and so simple that I'm like, oh, that's cool. I need to speak to that person. I need to dig in deeper. I need to understand it. I need that FOMO building.
It should increase your curiosity to know more, right? Okay. Now
100%.
I need to dig deeper into it. Yeah. And how has today's funding climate changed acquisition priorities
Profit. One word, profit.
of it? If it's profitable,
Yeah, we'll give you a
it makes
look.
sense, right? Not like we will make profit after 3 years, after 5 years. No.
Don't care. Gone. That's just not a thing that they look at anymore. And look, it's good. Like, I think that's a good change. It's a good opportunity for founders to be super scrappy in the early stage, not waste money on things that that look cool and that make you feel like you're in a cool, sexy startup. I admire bootstrap founders so much because they build really scalable businesses without any capital. Right. And I think that's really it's a really, really cool thing that they can do. And I think that's the behavior that venture-backed companies have to have now, because the number of companies that go from C to Series A is massively reduced. But the ones that go from Series A to Series B has increased, which is an interesting change. So basically what's happening now is there's more focus on profit at seed level. If you're profitable, you're running lean, you've got a cool company, cool team, you're using AI. If a VC invests in you, they can pump capital into it. You can make those systems better, bigger, and then you get from Series A to B quicker and faster and better. So I think like that's where the big change is happening now, is like, it comes down to that. If you're profitable, you're doing well, a VC looks at your system and like, cool, this is going to be really simple to scale from here. We know a formula that works, great. But that model of let's build it and they'll come is dead.
No more betting only on the feelings. It's all the data now, right? Yeah.
And even now on the AI companies, right? Because people at the initial stage, kind of maybe 2-3 years ago, were betting on AI companies. Even now, they're not doing the same thing. They're looking at the AI companies, they're seeing if they're profitable, and if they're profitable, there's investments going into them.
And which tactics work across Africa, Central and Eastern Europe, and Middle East, as well as Taiwan markets? Like any
Yeah. Good question.
similarities?
Again, I'll go back to my point: simplicity of your outreach, understanding your customers, and being crystal clear with what you're trying to achieve. Always about them, not about you. Like, these are things that they're not cool, they're not sexy, but they work every time, and they're hard. And people don't do it because it's hard. It's easy to buy a database of 1 million contacts and spam them, and have a conversion rate of 0.05%, and that's enough to keep the lights on. That's fine. If that's the business model you want to have, great. But if you really want to build a successful company, then you need to be a little bit more conscious and thought-provoking to the outreach that you're putting out there.
And keep it super simple.
Yeah, simple. Simplicity wins all the time.
Right. And how can teams in emerging regions use HubSpot to compete globally?
Yeah, what I would say is, don't go down the rabbit hole of having 18 or 20 point solutions just because they're cheap. What I would say is, like, for those that are really like genuinely interested in sustainable long-term growth, HubSpot has a free CRM. Start there. Connect it to the tools that you're going to use. The connecting is the most important thing. So if you're using Clay or HeyReach, or you're using email outreach tools, connect it to a primary source. That primary source needs to be a CRM, because that's your mothership of all the company or people information. and then connect the systems that you have together. Whether it's HubSpot, whether it's a different CRM, it doesn't matter. But my one takeaway for people that are listening to this is if you really want to build something long-term, scalable, sustainable, have a CRM as your backbone and then connect everything into it. Don't go down the route of, and I've seen this before, where you have 18 different tools, none of them speak to each other, you've got siloed data, and ends up happening is you send the same contact 3 different emails from 3 different accounts.
Right.
Think about the experience your customer is going to have. They're going to be pissed off, right? So simplify the process into one place that connects everything. All the data stays aligned. It makes it way easier to scale from there.
Having a centralized place where everything meets together, right? And how do you decide when to pivot a channel versus double down?
Results are the best thing to look at. So like if you see trends going downwards, like go back, look at what's happening, and then see if it can be fixed. If it's not been fixed, again, run some additional tests to it. Set and forget doesn't exist in any channel anymore. You kind of have to be on top of it. So the thing that I do with my own marketing team in HubSpot is what we do is we sit down at the start of every month. We look back on the campaigns that we ran at the multitude of different channels. We identify positives and negatives for each one. We make some little tweaks and changes, and then we do the same thing next month. So the numbers will always be consistent and at a growth rate of around 20% month on. Some months you'll have a slight dip, and some months you'll go a bit above that, but that's okay because you'll find that maybe one channel can drop off and then one channel takes over. So having that pre-scheduled in, even if it's just 30 minutes every other month, that's really helpful. How I do that personally is HubSpot links into ChatGPT. So I actually have a pre-built prompt that I give to ChatGPT, and it feeds me back a beautiful dashboard and report on the call with my team. And we can now take that call into a half an hour. There's no pre-prep that needs to be done. AI does the work for me. And then our team then discuss the points objectively without using raw data, using the AI to give us feedback.
Right. Getting all the data at one place and then using AI to show you the actual picture, getting help of AI to read the data. Yeah.
And
then
removes
making
bias. And I think that's
Yes.
really important because your bias is always going to be there. So I personally like to do this because we completely remove the bias. And that's good because now it's like, okay, look, this campaign was really bad. We know it's really bad. Okay, let's no finger pointing, no blame game. What can we do to make this better next week, next month, next year? And that it's almost like a bit of a weight is lifted off. And the fact that it's done on the call rather than done pre the call is also a good thing because no one has preconceived ideas before you jump into the call.
Yes.
And I like that.
A smart strategy. Yeah. Okay. That's great, Owen. So that's a wrap for today's episode of the Client Engine. A big thanks to you, Owen, for joining us and sharing practical tips on getting early customers and scaling. So now if you are a B2B founder, tech startup or consultant and want predictable or qualified leads, my team at Exotto and I'm offering a free one-to-one strategy call where we'll review your current client acquisition system, show you what's working, what's missing, and how to build your own client engine. So you can book a slot from the link showing in the description. And if you like this episode, please follow the show and share it with a founder friend. Leave us a quick review. It really helps. Thanks so much, Owen. Thank you for today's
Thanks so much.
call.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.